So this is a video which has been requested a few times. My look at Amora the Enchantress of Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And I'm excited to finally be making it because she's a really fun villain, and while she's come up in my videos before, I'd yet to make a video specifically about her, but I went back and rewatched the episodes she's in, and it's not just a series of appearances. This show tells a story in the background through Amora, and it's a tragedy, a downfall, caused by a single fatal flaw. But what is this story, and what is this flaw? Well, allow me to briefly recap the events which befall Amora during the show's 2 seasons. She acts as Loki's lieutenant in his scheme to take over the 9 realms, affecting his plans on Earth by keeping the Avengers busy and uniting the Masters of Evil. This culminates in her leading the Masters to recover the Norn Stones in an attempt to connect Earth to the 9 realms. But when Zemo betrays her, and when the Avengers defeat Loki, this plan is stopped. And as Enchantress exacts her vengeance upon Zemo and the Masters of Evil, the last Norn Stone is destroyed, casting Enchantress into Muspelheim and the fiery clutches of Surtur. We only see Enchantress a couple of times after this, first leading the armies of Surtur against Beta Ray Bill and his people, and again sending Loki and the Destroyer to Earth in the episode Powerless. But both times we get indications that her free will is limited, and she's being controlled by Surtur, mirrored by her demonic wardrobe change. In the Beta Ray Bill episode, we even get a glimpse of the true Amora beneath Surtur's control.
Thor, please, help me.
But the episode ends with her well and truly under Big Red's thumb, and by the end of Powerless, her last appearance, there's nothing to suggest that this has changed.
The Enchantress is beyond help now.
And that's it. The show ends. Thanks to the show's untimely cancellation, the last we see of Amora, she's still under Surtur's spell, and that's kind of a horrific fate, even for a villain like the Enchantress. And while it seems like some of the show's runners were setting up the Surtur plot for a resolution in Season 3, check out my video on that if you're unclear, the fact that Earth's Mightiest Heroes never got the chance to actually finish this storyline means we can't approach Amora's storyline as it might have been, but instead only as we got it. So while maybe there would have been some redemption arc, or a semi-heroic end for the Enchantress, in a hypothetical future where the show was allowed to run its course, what we're left with is a downfall, from power and freedom to defeat and servitude. But if that's what we're working with, a downfall, a sort of Aristotelian peripeteia, let's look at this downfall and what caused it. The main reason, or at least the most obvious one, is arrogance. She perpetually underestimates humans, being beaten by the Avengers, like a bunch of times, like in acts of vengeance, when her misplaced confidence in her own self-evident superiority blinds her to even considering the possibility of something like the power dampener Iron Man builds to counter her magic. But more dangerously, she underestimates Earth's villains. She's stopped from finishing Loki's plans on Earth by a betrayal from Zemo when he slaps a mind control collar on Enchantress's neck. And in a similar miscalculation, her introduction of the Norn Stones to the Masters of Evil leads directly to her ultimate doom, because Zemo keeps one, using it in acts of vengeance as a defense against her magic, until it's destroyed in the fighting, leading to her capture.
Amora the Enchantress.
Surtur.
You serve me now.
This fatal arrogance is the result of her superiority complex, but while most Asgardians, or like elves and such, we see in the show, have a bit of a dismissive opinion of the Avengers and their mortal world, Amora's repugnance towards humanity sort of takes the cake. She really doesn't like us, and I think that comes down to jealousy over Thor, because one of the, if not the most interesting and dynamic aspects of this character is her love for Thor. He's her enemy, sure, and she hates his friends, but throughout the show and their conflict, it's clear that she never stops loving him. even if this appears to be a one-way street. She even saves him from a possible death at the hands of Ultron, transporting him to an idyllic paradise world. This is all she ever wanted, to be with Thor.
This is why I saved you, my love. This is all I ever wanted. The two of us, alone.
This isn't real love though, because it isn't reciprocated, and she doesn't care. We see Amora controlling Thor, trying to make him forget about the world outside their realm. It's also unclear how far, if at all, she's controlling his emotions. When Thor wakes up with her, he seems fine with it, but as we see these magical manipulations, the consent of this becomes really murky. At best, Thor is only content being with her when his knowledge of the outside world is gone, and at worst, this is bordering on assault. With this in mind, her obsession with him takes on a more unpleasant dynamic. She's not much better than a stalker. And in this mindset, wanting Thor at all costs, seeing him spurn her advances and instead play hero on Earth, you can see how she might become jealous of Earth and its inhabitants.
If you love your precious Midgard so much, then you can go die with it.
To her twisted perception, they're the ones standing in between her and happiness. We even get a fairly direct confirmation that her hate of Earth, her part in Loki's scheming against it, stem from Thor's rejection of her in favour of the Avengers.
Fool! You had your chance to escape this, but you turned your back on me. For your arrogance, Midgard will pay the price.
But it's this crusade of hers which leads to her fate, and it's botched due in part to her underestimation of Zemo and his fellow mortals, which in turn seems to result from this jealousy over Thor. Zemo controls her, the invasion fails, and she's ultimately captured by Surtur as a result. And the causal link between her feelings for Thor and this chain of events is explicitly highlighted by Loki.
The Enchantress did fail me.
Her love for you must have weakened her resolve.
Even if he's wrong that she screwed things up by going easy on Thor, he's right that her feelings for Thor helped scupper their plans, because if Amora hadn't saved Thor from Ultron, the Masters of Evil would probably have been successful. So any way you slice it, it's her unhealthy overflow of twisted love for Thor which led to her doom. But there's one moment which makes me feel a little more sympathetic for Amora, and here it is.
Amora the Enchantress. I should have known that witch would be involved in this. I will enjoy making her pay.
Sif really doesn't like Amora. I mean, it's understandable given the context, but she was awfully quick to slate her, and given the low-key jealous vibe we get elsewhere from Sif towards Thor, I wonder if the reason Sif responds this way comes from that. Jealousy. And if she sees Amora as a threat, a potential romantic rival, well, does that mean that there was something real between her and Thor at one point? I mean, that would hardly be a stretch. They've had very similar entanglements together in comics and such in the past. And yeah, basing all of this on a throwaway line from Sif is a bit of a reach, but really it's just as likely as any other reason for why Enchantress is so hung up on Thor. Maybe it's implied, maybe it's just a possibility, but viewing Amora as someone who can't get over her ex and desperately wants him back makes her feel, ironically, a lot more human. Obviously she's still a villain and she's done some horrible things. She's not a good person, but potential readings like this one, as well as the handful of moments throughout where she seems to feel some sort of remorse for her part in Loki's schemes, make her a somewhat sympathetic villain.
My beautiful Enchantress. He always believes you.
And honestly, there's a part of me that feels sorry for what happens to her in the end. A lot of us would do anything for love, and to Amora, that's what she's doing. And look where it gets her. Her fate, her tragedy is a cruel, cruel irony. This is a woman who controls emotions. That's like her thing. Just look at what she does to the Hulk in the episode Some Assembly Required, or what she does to Thor to try and get him to stay. And this woman who controls emotions, her downfall comes because her emotions control her, namely her love for Thor. And it's this central irony which makes this character so compelling, and one that people still feel so strongly about even 10 years later. Along, of course, with a stunning performance from the iconic voice actor Carrie Walgren, who never misses, and with a striking and iconic visual design. So that's the tragedy of Amora the Enchantress. In a parallel world, this is only the middle of her story, and right now I'd be going into what becomes of her in seasons 3 and 4. But alas, we don't live in that world. But there are a whole bunch of other worlds that you can enter, accessed through the magic of audiobooks. With a subscription to Audible, you can listen to all sorts of... Nah, I'm just joking. This video isn't sponsored, don't worry, that was just a bit. But this video is over, that bit wasn't fake, so I hope you liked it, and there's probably some similar ones coming soon. Maybe I'll do Hulk next, who knows. But I've got a lot of other videos on Earth's Mightiest Heroes and other stuff too, so subscribe if you want to keep up to date with any of that. And let me know what you thought of my take below. I do genuinely read every comment, even the mean ones. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.